Hello and welcome everyone to another Hasselblad webinar. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Mark Whitney, part of Hasselblad's European marketing team, and I'm keeping safe and following government guidelines by coming to you today from my home in the UK, although by the magic of virtual backgrounds, I'm also at Hasselblad's headquarters in Gothenburg. I hope you're also keeping safe today, wherever you may be joining from. Today's webinar will be an interview with photography duo Anna and Daniel, and a look through their amazing and instantly recognizable work. We'll be going through some of their recent and favourite images with a sneak look behind the scenes and hearing the stories behind them. So just a little bit as housekeeping as usual. Just to let everyone know that today's webinar will be recorded and added to Hasselblad's YouTube channel in a few hours or this evening for everyone to look back on. A quick agenda. Very simple today, just an introduction to Anna and Daniel, a look through some of their work. We estimate this to be about 45 to 50 minutes, leaving us some time at the end for questions. So if you have any questions during today's presentation, please feel free to use the GoToWebinar questions panel, and we'll be looking through them and trying to squeeze in as many relevant questions as possible. So let's meet Anna and Daniel. Are you there?
Hi.
Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. We're very glad, very happy to be here.
Yeah, also at home.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, yeah, thank you very much for joining us and giving up your time. Yeah, so you're at home as well, like most of the world seems to be at the moment. So how's the recent months been for you and the effect it's had on your work?
I mean, I think as it's going to be very obvious for everyone watching our work, we're very used to traveling for work and creating our images. So architecture all around the world, it's kind of a main topic in our work. But I think we're getting the most of it, trying to not only discover cities from all over the world like we were used to, but discovering our own city, Valencia from Spain, which was maybe, a city we had yet to explore. And these past months, because of COVID, I feel like we've been doing kind of a lot of creative work very close to home, which is always kind of nice.
Okay, great. So let's move on to have a little bit of an introduction to yourselves. So you're based in Valencia in Spain. Is that where you're both originally from, or have you moved there?
Well, I'm originally from here, but Daniel's from Albacete.
It's a smaller city, but I've lived here so long. I think it's been more than 10 years or so. Like I studied architecture.
From here.
Yeah.
And I understand that there's a common mistake that some people think you're brother and sister, but you're actually you're really.
Yeah, you're not supposed to bring that up.
Yeah. No, but you met at university, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's a common misunderstanding that we get because back then I used to have also like the same fringe as Anna, so we were very similar, so it was not their fault. But
well, we are both architects, so we love minimalism and we dress always in black, white, gray. That's why everybody thinks, oh, they really look the same. I mean, they resemble a lot, but no, we are a couple. We work together and we met at university because we are former architects.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, your architectural images, you mentioned there you've got an architectural background. So how does that sort of relate to your work nowadays? It says here, obviously, they're full of fun and you have a particular style. So has the architecture played a role in that?
Yeah, I think that for us, while we were studying, we were kind of frustrated with our degree with architecture because we felt like architecture and architects were only doing things for other architects, like using the same type of language and not understanding that not everyone else is into beautiful corners or details in facades. And we always felt, really frustrated trying to show something to our family or friends and not feeling that same passion. That there was a sort of a lack of connection. And through our photography, we've discovered that that bridge between us and the regular folk, the regular people not interested in design, is creativity, beauty, fun, humor, all those things that everyone else is interested in. So that's where our photography comes in. We try to be that connection between the architectural world, very serious, very, I don't know, very knowledgeable, and then just regular people trying to enjoy life, fun, and creativity.
Okay, and then the last note we've got on there is that you shoot a lot of your images with very little image processing. It's all pretty much shot in camera and also with ambient light. And so is there a particular reason why you took that approach?
Well, we always say that the city is our playground, and we love to shoot in the street in front of real architecture. Architecture is always the main protagonist in our images. You always see a facade, or even if it's like a plain background, it's a real facade too. We shot that in the street, and we are not using additional lighting. It's just the sun. And yeah, we'll see through the presentation that everything we do is in front. It's in front of the camera, because we like to work with our hands and to have everything set and ready before creating image.
Okay, so just if people want to see more of your work, we've got your web link there and your Instagram handles, so people can go and check you out later, and we'll repeat that at the end of the webinar as well if you want to make a note of it then. So just to move on quickly, obviously it's a Hasselblad webinar, so it would only be right to mention the camera you currently use. So this is your day-to-day, the X1D 250C. So yeah, so what's your experience of using the camera for your work?
I mean, we've using a few of the Hasselblad cameras since we've been working with you guys, and I think we've worked with the X1D and the 907X as well. And I think that for me, even though I've loved all of those other models, this is our favorite, because even though, again, I love the 907X, but this one feels the most comfortable, the most easy to work with, the most, I don't know, like the most, for all it's worth it.
For our workflow,
yeah.
It's perfect, because even though we shoot in the street, it's not street photography. I mean, everything's planned and we take our time when shooting. So we always use a tripod, and it really helps us, this camera. It's like it's already part of ourselves.
Yeah, and I think always with all the other cameras that we've worked with, previous to Hasselblad, there was always a lack of quality that we were like, there must be something better. Like when you were printing, you were realizing that, this image is great, like the idea was on point, the location was spectacular, but the quality of the files was not there, so the print is not actually that good. And when we transitioned to Hasselblad, the printing quality was always the thing that was completely perfect despite everything else. So we just needed to get better at our ideas and concepts and locations, because the printing quality or the quality of the camera was already there. So we're very happy with it.
Okay, and a question we always get on these webinars is, what lenses do you currently have in your kit bag and you use regularly?
So we have the 30mm, the 45p millimeter, and the 90. And the 45p is the one that we use the most, but recently, for some reason, the 90mm, even though it's kind of a weird lens for architecture, and if there are any architecture photographers, they are going to agree. For some reason, we've really enjoyed taking those images with the 90mm and being very far from the subject, because it makes everything a little bit flatter. And that in our photography, in our style, is really what we are going for and what we're looking for. So these, and I think the 3 latest images have been shot with that one. But my favorite is the 45p, because you can see it also here, like it's it's so thin, it's so small, so portable, everything, that is just great. But the 90mm, for some reason, even though it's a bit more bulky and big, of course, because of the lens type, we've been shooting with that one recently for some reason.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. So let's get on to the more interesting part, I suppose, for most people, is the images. So we've already mentioned the lockdown. So was this image here in relation to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we get inspired by everything really, and we couldn't help it. I mean, lockdown and travel restrictions and coronavirus, it's our daily basis right now, and we wanted to give it an approach it's more, let's say, not happy, because it's not happy, but more
hopeful, positive.
Yeah, so we were working in this idea of making a visual image that expresses our because we are really keen to to travel again. And we know we can't, of course, because we are under lockdown. So we created this idea that we think is really powerful because it plays with the idea of a padlock and the travel restrictions.
The thing is that I think our work always has like a positive, fun approach, but at the same time, I think it's very stupid not to, you know, acknowledge the situation in the real world. So we kind of, at the beginning of the pandemic, we were kind of in a contradiction of, should we talk about these topics that are so dark and so grim, or should we just be fun and playful as we always are? And, you know, those things are not compatible. So you need to choose at some point. And I don't know, we're very happy with this image because I think it allowed us to be, you know, kind of with one foot in both places. So we're kind of talking about this, but at the same time, we're trying not to do something that it's sad or, you know, grim.
Yeah. And for every one of your images, you've been very kind to provide us with your initial sketch. So believe it or not, this was actually before the photo was taken.
I think, I'm not sure if for other photographers this is like a usual approach or something that very used to, but for us, drawing it's an essential part of the process as much as it is the, you know, placing the tripod or placing the lens on the camera. And all of these images, they need like a certain planning and certain, you know, calculation of how you're going to make all of this stuff, the outfits, the props and everything. So for every concept, no matter how easy or how complicated it is, we always need like a detailed drawing to have everything ready and to plan for all the things that we're going to need. So yeah, Anna, of course, forgot to mention, she's the one artist doing these illustrations. I'm just fascinated at and looking how she does it.
Yeah, and yeah, some more behind the scenes here to show the props that you use. So how do you make these yourself, or do you have someone that helps you to make the props?
No, we made that ourselves. When we are thinking about our ideas, as Daniel said, we sketch everything, and also we try to come up with how to make that real. So in this case, we had this concept in mind, and we need that it was not a regular suitcase. Of course, we had to make it from scratch. So yeah, these sketches help us to take measures, to decide the size of the props, and to make everything for the image. So yeah, we did that ourselves. We chose the color, the materials. It's always like an experiment, trying to find out which material will work for each and every prop. But I really like that process. I actually, well, my parents used to work as window dressers, so I've been surrounded since I was a little girl by materials and tools. So it's what I've learned since I was little, to transform materials and objects into other objects.
So something that is interesting for me in this image is that you can see that the background, that the location, it's obviously real. Like that wall, it belonged to a building nearby our studio and our city, but then the floors, those were like really damaged and the color was not right. So we had to build, and you can see it somewhat in that photo. We had to actually make like a floor in that color that we had to paint as well, so that everything would fit in the camera. So even though it's kind of funny because most of the images that you see from our portfolio are very simple looking and very minimalistic, so you might think that there's not like a lot of work, but then realizing that all of those things were carefully planned and carefully designed and carefully made by hand by us, then it's kind of contradictory to be how difficult it is to make something so simple and minimal.
Yeah, it never comes easy.
No.
No, I can sure imagine. Yeah. So is this from the recent Christmas period?
Yeah, we at first we thought it for Christmas, but then Daniel's birthday, it's just like 3 days after Christmas. So we decided to create this image for his birthday. And same here, this idea, for example, we sketched this idea in a piece of paper, and we had this idea, but then we needed the perfect location. And sometimes it happens that we see a location, and then at like this case, 3 years later or 4, we go back to that location. In this case, this window was in our university, and we have a folder full of places all around the city that we like and we think that are interesting, but we don't have any idea for those places. But when we are thinking and brainstorming ideas, sometimes we look through all these images and we find the places we need. And that happened in this case. We just find the window in the university we studied.
And then, yeah, image here of you creating the image.
Yeah, that is the whole crew.
Well, they are my parents, and as I mentioned to you, they were window dressers. Yeah, I mean, they have like a huge van, all sort of materials, and they have a big warehouse. So right now we are using that their studio to create all those props and to paint and create everything we have in our mind. And they're always happy to come and see what we are doing.
Yeah, the thing is that we are not like a big, huge studio. There's just the two of us. So sometimes if we need help with, exactly like with driving, with something that is too big, they can give us a hand. But other than that, it's just something, because that's some question that many people ask us. Is there a whole team between, the images and such, and it's just the two of us and sometimes her parents.
Yeah. Okay, so another Christmas themed image.
Yeah, in this case, it's the same. As you see, our latest artworks are more conceptual because we are not traveling that much. So what we do is we brainstorm ideas and we sketch those ideas on pieces of paper, and then we decide how to transform those sketches into real life. In this case, for example, again, you see, oh, this is easy to do, but then when you try to find the perfect green skirt, you don't find it. It's the same. If it's easy, you won't find it. So in this case, we had to make it ourselves. Well, at first we thought that we could sew it ourselves, but then we had the help of a lady that she's an old lady. She's so charming, and she helped us creating that skirt because we had to design it, and then she was the creator of the skirt. And then because we had to choose the fabric we wanted for the skirt, we had to match the wrapping paper. So again, it's impossible to find the same cloth or the same fabric and the same paper. So what we did in here was to find a material we could paint and we could also wrap. And we choose the specific color we needed to make them match. So it's always the same. We are always trying to make colors match and to find the perfect material that would work to create the effect we want, because it could be, we could absolutely paint the wood, because inside the paper, of course, there's like a structure, but we wanted it to look like a present. So we needed to find the perfect wrapping paper that we could paint and it could look like a regular one.
The thing, what we're trying to say here is that for every image, it feels like you're becoming an expert in a different topic. Like, so when you're thinking about doing something with the skirts that week, all the things that you do, all the things that you research is about skirts. If it's about wrapping paper, you're going to experiment with all of these materials. And when you're done, let's go to the different thing and to a completely different object and concept, and as well different materials and different shapes and everything. So every image feels like a completely new project that you just jumped into it.
And how long does it typically take between sort of having the idea to then getting all of the props together? Is it a long period, or?
Well, it depends if we have a client and there's a deadline or not.
Yeah.
Because of course, when you have a client, normally this is for tomorrow. It's like, can you have it for tomorrow? It's like, okay. But yeah, usually it takes us at least a week, because we need to well, we brainstorm ideas and then we sketch our ideas. And also, for example, the Christmas tree, we decided the shape of that tree. So we need to also make like a design study to decide which one is the perfect one. And then it's like all the production, looking for props, paints, location, and then of course shooting and editing. So yeah, at least let's say that's a week.
The thing is that the things that we take control of, we can be rather quick. I think we've done projects with clients like in in days, like super quick. But the things that are not to our control, like, you know, the permission, the locations, or, you know, the type of the props, and also kind of the ideas, because some of the places you visit, you feel like there's something to be done here, and you go by the place a lot of times. And even when you have the idea, you're subject to the weather. So for example, this was the one image that we haven't released yet, but we've taken it in Valencia, in a huge landmark here. And we've had that idea, you know, for years, and we wanted to take it, but the conditions, because it was so in the wild, like in the open, like the weather was never on point. So we kept going and going and going until we got it. So some images, we like to say, you know, this image took 4 years to make, because then we discovered the location 4 years ago, and we were like, yeah, we need to do something here. And then we had the idea 2 years later, because something made a connection there. And then until we could actually get the permissions and get the props and get the outfits and everything, and the weather to be at the same location as we wanted, it really takes a lot of time. So some images could take a week, some other images up to years. So you never know.
Yeah. Okay. So Halloween themed shot, this one.
Yeah, again, this one was shot in 2020 here in Valencia. It's two people, really. It's my friend Angela. We were normally, people say, because they are our best friends, and they say that they could be our stunt doubles. So that gave us an idea to including them in our image. And this was a theme. Of course, we've never created something related to Halloween, but this year, since we have our ongoing series called What the Hat, it just clinged, it just appeared, this idea in our minds, and we went for it. And yeah, as you can see, it's all about deciding the perfect outfit for this image, and also the shape of the ghost. It could be a completely different shape, but we, of course, we do like different designs, and then Daniel and I choose the one we think that will work, because we know that in our images we try to use like an international language, like everybody has to understand this image, even though they don't see the title or they don't see something written. They have to understand it, and no matter where they're from, if they are from Japan or from Spain or whatever. So we try to make our images as easy to get as possible, because what will matter for our images are the concepts, and we want them to be as clear as possible.
The funny thing as well is that those designs that you can see in the image, those small like sections of the design that we used, we make those with the kind of software that we used to work with when we were studying architecture. You know, AutoCAD. If there are any architects in the room, they know that that's the program you use to make the plans and all of the plans for the building. And we use that to design our designs.
Yeah, so it's funny because we do our own layouts before building our images. It's like we still are builders. So, in a way. So we use this architectural software to decide the size of the props, because as you've seen, it's not that we photoshopped that. It's that it took us like 3-4 days to decide how the shape will fit the the shirt. You know, it's like we take everything into consideration, and then we use this software, and we are always calculating if we are using the camera, and if the person is going to be in this position, how should we design this shape so it fits.
But not only that, it's not something that you can do on its own. At the same time, you also need to consider if that actual outfit that you were thinking of is really existing. You know what I mean? Like, we had to actually find that type of shirt that it's so long, but at the same time it's kind of slim for the models to wear, for Anna and Angela. So as you can see, it's not a process of having the sketch, then doing the production, then shooting the image. It's kind of, everything is kind of convoluted and happen at the same time. So you need to be very quick into, you know, changing the sketch because you don't have the proper outfit. And it sounds like I'm trying to explain it, but it's trickier than it looks, is what I'm trying to say.
No, it's all good. It's making sense to me. Okay, yeah. So you've got this image here, which is the lines on the wall.
Yeah, noteworthy. Well, this was shot in the middle of the city, and this has a funny story. Normally, when you see plain backgrounds, we work on the outskirts of the city. We work in industrial areas because nobody's there on the weekends, and we find these beautiful big facades. They're colorful, and in this case, we needed this kind of facade, and we knew a building that had it. But it was in the middle of the city, so we knew that we will have some crowd or people around watching. So we tried to shoot this image on a Sunday morning, 7 a.m. And yeah, because what you see is paper. It's paper and it's a hat. It's a visual effect, but it's nothing than paper. And there was a neighbor that saw us 7 a.m. and he thought that we were vandalizing the building. So he was like shouting, and I of course I removed the paper and I showed him, look, this is nothing. And he was like, okay,
he was
beautiful.
He was so mad. He was like from the window up top, and he goes, what are you guys doing?
Yeah,
like, are you painting the
But it was funny. Normally when people see, because it's funny when you are in the with us, if you are in the street and you happen to see us shooting, you actually see the real image. It's already done. It's like an art installation, it's a street art, but we don't leave it there. We shoot and then nothing happens. But if you happen to be the 1-2 hours we are there, like putting everything on place, like setting and shooting, you see the image.
Yeah, we've got a question along those lines actually from Della. I think they're asking, ideas for taking minimalist images in crowded cities. So I think you've pretty much answered that. Really, is that we would go early morning to sort of avoid crowds.
Yeah, that's what we do because, people like to, if there's something funny or curious, they stay. And they don't bother us, but you don't concentrate that much when you have a crowd watching. So we try to work in the morning when nobody is around. Of course, you can't avoid to have like a spectator or two, but
yet still, I think the best answer is just you need to get over it. Because and I say this because for me it's been the most difficult, because I'm usually, I wouldn't say that I'm shy, but I'm kind of introvert, so I don't really enjoy being in the open, doing something that it's weird to the eye. But you just try to get used to it. You are trying to make something that is beautiful, that it's artsy. So if someone is looking, just say hi, go by your day.
That happens also, that people take pictures while we are taking pictures. So it's like, okay.
Okay, so this one here was shot with the 907X, I understand.
Yeah, and this is one of the examples I was talking about. I was so nervous taking this image because we didn't know if there was actually someone in that building. I don't know if it's empty or not. So we were like, even though we were fake knocking on the, I was like, what happens if someone actually opens the door and I'm here, dressed like I don't know. It was super weird. But this for us sums up what we are trying to make with our work. We are trying to make people realize about what they have around, and all of these places around you, those are kind of a special interest in. But taking a picture of that empty location is just a random building that you are interested in. But if you kind of come up with a concept and you try to tell a story, then suddenly it's something worth telling and worth showing. And that's kind of the whole point for our work, trying to talk about architecture in a more fun and creative approach, so that that message conveys a lot more people.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, everybody lives in a building and they work in a building, or if you go outside, if you walk around the city, you're surrounded by buildings. So it makes no sense to say that you are not interested in architecture, because you are. You are. But it's true that architects, because we know ourselves, because we don't talk to regular people. We talk for architects. We talk with weird words. And we need to approach to everybody and to make them understand that architecture is interesting. And if we all care about our buildings, we will have like a beautiful city, or a city that we all love. So that's our idea, to make people understand that architecture can be also fun.
Yeah, and I notice a lot of your images are square format. Is that the format that you think works best?
I don't know, for some reason I think it is. I think we really enjoy working with limits, and I think this also comes back to what you just said about, you know, why don't you use Photoshop, or why do you make everything yourselves? And I think that actually really makes everything a lot more easy. And because the fact that everything is a square makes us, okay, we need to make a composition that works inside of a square. If we don't make that limit, then it could be vertical, it could be horizontal. And even though we love those formats as well, I think having most of them in 1x1 makes a lot more sense to us.
Yeah, so when we sketch in our papers, we normally also sketch like a square. So all our ideas get inside that square. But of course, if, for example, we went to Hong Kong and we had this image on a super vertical building, of course, we have this version of a vertical image. I mean, we don't stick to the square if it makes no sense. But when we are creating from scratch, we like to set as limits, as Daniel said, because it helps us to create, to compose, and to come up with ideas.
Yeah, you have less things to worry about. If you have already decided about the format, let's go to the next thing.
Yep. Okay, and a question from Mark. How much time do you spend actually shooting the images, and how many images do you actually take of the scene? I guess with your sketch, it wouldn't be many shots, I guess.
Yeah, you would expect that. This is kind of embarrassing, but you know, when we get to these locations, we always have and that would make sense to be like, you know, our sketch is so clear, we need to have this exact position. So let's just have a quick shot and let's just go home. But for some reason, every shooting is always like 3 hours, 2-3 hours.
Yeah,
to say the least, 2 hours.
2-3 hours, yes, because we have to, if we are creating one of those ideas that involves creating our own backgrounds, we need time to stick the papers or.
Oh, I'm not talking about that. That's on the side. You know, the production and the setup of the thing, it's a complete different schedule. I'm talking straight, just shooting, just posing. That's like an hour or two.
Daniel is saying because last time he was on camera and he was not confident enough. So
it was 3 hours.
It took us 3 hours because he didn't trust me. But yeah, it's because it takes us time because in our images there's no wind, there's no. I mean, you don't feel that the hair is moving, but in the real life it's moving a lot because you can't believe how windy it is sometimes. So we have to be patient and to get the shot right on time. And also it's all a matter of precision. Like we are so picky and we want everything to fit. It could be just a millimeter, but it makes a difference. And also the expression. For us, it also involves to express with the faces.
Oh yeah.
So it's a lot to take into consideration, and sometimes it's true that, of course, the first shot works, but it's not the best one. You need to keep on trying till you have everything perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a few more sort of examples of concepts against the finished result. So these were some client images.
Yeah. This was for a bank in the United States, and we had like well, the briefing was just this is for a bank, so we create some images that were related into economics and of course money and you know, like expenses and all that stuff. And in this case we work with some models, and when we did the sketches, of course we knew who were the people that were featuring the images. And as you can see, it's difficult because we have to decide the sizes of all the papers that go in the background, and we have to have the outfits first. So it's all, we have a client, we have a week to shoot everything, and yet we need to decide everything, to come up with measures, to come up with like all the props. But sketches help us a lot because for us, it's a way to expressing ourselves, like, hey, Daniel, I have this idea, or we are talking and we are sketching at the same time, because it's the best way to understand each other. Like, what do you have in your mind? But in this case, sketches also help us to deal with clients, because if you write an email saying, look, I want to create like a dollar, and it's gonna be created with a hat and a girl.
Yeah, they would never understand.
Yeah, I mean, if I tell you that if all the people in the room sketch what I said, everybody will get a different idea. But if we do these sketches, we know that the client understands what the image is gonna be, and if he needs like a change or he needs another color or whatever, we are not gonna do it in post-production. We are gonna do it before shooting, and that's what we want is like to have everything ready before the shooting, so it's not like a surprise.
Yeah.
You already know what you're gonna have.
I think working with clients for photographers, it's rather difficult, especially if you have like an art direction, like a strong art direction. So for us, sketches are super essential, and we, I'm so glad that you know how to draw, because if it were for me, like I would have such a hard time trying to explain. I want to do a percentage with a man, so
because it's so difficult. And also, this client was from the US, but we have clients that are from Asia, from Korea, for example, and communications are not that easy. But drawings are international, so if you get the sketch, the drawing, you already know what you're gonna have.
Yeah, there's no way to misunderstand a drawing.
So, and also for models, it was easy to say, look, we're gonna shoot this. You have to do that. For example, the percentage. Virame is the guy that he was amazing. He did it perfectly. At first, we thought maybe this is too difficult. Let's try. He did it. The first shot was already perfect. I mean, we keep trying because we wanted to have like another expression. But it's easier when you show them like, look, this is what we are gonna get, and then they already know. So they kind of they were having fun because they already knew. Okay, this is how we're gonna look.
Yeah, I don't think it was the typical shooting where they are trying to look, beautiful or hot.
Yeah.
They were trying to make what we asked of them. You need to be in this position, this certain thing. So I think it was rather fun for them as well.
Okay, so looking at some of your locations again, so I think this is really good because it shows, what you saw of the location, and then the next slide is going to show then what you then use that location for.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking to you about, the fact that these locations are really special and they are quite unique, but without something happening in them, they're just regular places that you go across every day and they're nothing special, so there's nothing to talk about. But when you involve humans and stories and concepts and humors, I think they really highlight those locations. And I think we bring up the conversation about, the cities we live in, and you would never imagine how many times we are walking in Valencia, our city, or in any other city, and we are like, this place could be so special, this place could be so nice if only there was not like a lamp in this place, or like like one of those things that we don't like in the city, or if it weren't this dirty. The whole reflection is we should take more care of our cities so that we could be more happily in them.
Okay, we've got a question from Roland. So do you ever just go out and shoot without planning? And I guess the way to ask that is, so the image on the top right there with the tree, would you ever just walk past that and and shoot that because you were able to do that without any props, or would you still go back through that process?
Well,
the answer, I think the right answer is I wish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it looks like casual, but if you see the light, for us, it's also important. You don't see we don't have like a strong light in Valencia, in our city. We can't complain because it's sunny.
Most of the time.
Most of the time, like 90% of the year, we enjoy the sun. So we have to check the locations and to see when we will have this plain
soft light,
like this soft light.
Yeah, because most of the day that place, that location, that building is on the sunshine, so it's impossible to take the picture. That specific shot was only possible because it was like in that fraction of time in the day where the sun is almost down. so you have everything like in the same soft light. So, and all that goes as well for the outfit. Like we are not all the time dressed completely in black or in beige, or, you know, choosing those particular outfits. It's also a, you know, like a constant decision. Like it's not that you're always dressed on location perfectly. We always need to plan when we are taking an image.
For example, in the one with the umbrella, for example, if I was wearing black, you wouldn't pay attention to the umbrella. It's like everything we decide. I mean, everything is a decision.
Yeah.
Because, for example, or in the happy texture, in the face ad image, if I was wearing, imagine, a green shirt, it would make no sense. So yeah, we could go and shoot, but we need the right outfit, the right lighting, and yeah, we wish we had everything perfect
That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
when we are there, but no, we always come back.
Okay, then we've just got some individual images now that we can talk through for the remaining time. So this one was shot on your travels, I understand?
Yeah, we were in the Canary Islands here in Spain, and we were giving a talk there. So normally when we are traveling for work, we also try to squeeze some time to shoot. So in this case, we try to plan everything from home. So, okay, we know we are going to the islands, and we sketch some ideas, we scout some locations from home. Luckily, we have right now Google Maps and Street View and a lot of architectural blogs. So we knew this location. And what we did here was trying to scout and find the perfect outfit. So we were traveling to the Canary Islands, and in our suitcase, we included this outfit because we need it for the image. So this is what we do. Of course, when you go there, it was so windy. So what we had to do is like, well, you use some tricks to avoid the wind. I was using the belt of the skirt. I just put it in my hair because it was so windy. So
lucky enough, in this image, I think actually the wind factor is a win. I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think it looks good on it, but that the wind factor is really, it makes it really complicated for us, because when we need something very specific to happen, if the wind is blowing, it can take us, you know, we need to go back at home and try to rethink the shoot.
Yeah, but luckily, since the weather was not super perfect, we had this cloud just right, like shading, and we had this beautiful light that we were looking for.
Okay, and we've got a couple of questions about sort of what you do with your images. Obviously, the client images that are commissioned are for the client, but the images you shoot for yourself. So what do you end up doing with those? Do you sell prints, and have you done any books?
Good question.
So at the moment, we are working with two different galleries. One of them is in Miami, the other one is in Tel Aviv. And our work comes in limited edition prints. They are actually quite big, but we work with the best printers and with the best materials. So we are also like super proud of those. And
yeah, we always imagine our images printed. So we work for the best quality, and we have some galleries that are representing us. We are also dropping something soon, like a limited edition, but it's gonna be special. And also, now that you ask, we've been working on the first book, on our first book, and yeah, we've been working for 1 year and something, and fingers crossed we're gonna be, it's gonna be finished this year. So yeah, these images are gonna also be featured on our first book.
Yeah, stay tuned for that.
Okay, so there we go. That was an exclusive. That wasn't wanted, but that was a genuine question from Andre. So there we go, Andre. There's a book coming. And another question I was going to ask: have you ever been recognised from your images? Have you become local celebrities or worldwide celebrities from your images?
Well, we don't, when we shoot the images, we don't see ourselves in the images. I know it sounds weird, but we kind of shoot a character and we don't see ourselves there. It's like we don't pay attention of our lookings, and we pay attention more of the pose and expression. But we always forget that we are in the images. And yeah, it happens to us. I think it was in Miami and in Milan, that people approach and they say, "Can I take a picture with you?" It's like, Okay,
But
we are not prepared for that.
yeah, I wouldn't say that we are world famous, but the thing is that, you know, for a photographer, I think it's quite interesting because usually you have the photographer and then their photography. Like it's, you may be really aware about Rodney Smith's work, but maybe you are not familiar if he has white hair or if he had, I don't know how tall he was. But definitely, if you know of our work, you know, if I have a fringe, if Anna is, you know.
Yeah. Another question from Miquel. So clients obviously approach you for your style. Do they ever pitch their own ideas for what they would like? Are you happy to do that with someone else's idea, or do you prefer it to be your own concepts?
We prefer to do our own concepts. I think that we are lucky when a client approaches, they already know what we are doing. So basically what they want is you have to talk about this concept, or you have, for example, the bank, they wanted to have some images, some ideas and some concepts that were related to their field. Sometimes it's just to featuring something like an object, a product, or I don't know, like a car, and we come up with these ideas from scratch. It's like, okay, you show us what you have in mind. It's like showing a product, and then we'll come up with an idea that we think it's better, or it's like more powerful to tell the story.
But I don't even think that we get that asked. Like usually if someone asks us to work with them, they already expect us to come up with the idea. And that's kind of really the point to working with us. And that's kind of nice, because if you already have the idea, you don't need us. You need us if you don't have any idea on how to tell the story of that product, of that object, or that campaign. And that's what's great about working with us.
Yeah, I think that because we are architects, we kind of like to solve problems. So you come with a problem and we'll solve this problem with a visual image.
Okay, a question from Fernando. So you both trained as architects. So he's asking how you made that move to photography, and does the element of architecture still sort of fulfill your interest in architecture, or do you still wish to go back to that someday?
You know, we still architecture nerds, like totally. Even the refurbishment of our place, even though we had some architects work with us, like we hired them to help us with the whole construction thing, I feel like we kind of decided almost everything, because we are so fixed on the design and on the precision of stuff, of the objects that come inside the house. So we still are, I feel like an architect, like, even though I'm not building things.
I always feel that I have to say, I mean, we are former architects and we finished the degree with honors, both of us, but we needed something else. It's like we love architecture, and we love to visit some masterpieces. We really, I mean, I really cried when I went to Helsinki to visit Alvar Aalto's studio. I cried because I was like super excited. I was like fangirling. But still, this makes us super happy, like to use architecture in a different way, and not, I mean, we love AutoCAD, but we used to spend like 9-10 hours in front of the computer, and right now it's more like a hobby. I use AutoCAD whenever I need it, and we are gonna be always architects, but we really like this new path.
And also, I think the transition was kind of really organically. Like it was not night and day that we decided, okay, I'm an architect now, so no, I'm a photographer. Well, we both had jobs. I was working at university, and Anna was working in an architecture studio. And then on the side, we were having this hobby of taking images around architecture. And then we were basically, you know, we had a bigger salary of our hobby than we did from our work, so it was kind of difficult to work those both things at the same time. And at some point, each one of us at a different moment, we just quit what we were doing.
It's like we started doing what we're doing now, what we were studying, so it was naturally to just follow what we were doing.
Okay, and what I think is great about your photography is that, you know, the simplicity of it. So if you take this image here, you know, I assume all you've got there really is a camera. You know, the architecture is your backdrop, and you've obviously got your skill and experience to think of the ideas to how to use that. But I think the strong message is for young photographers, which we've got a question about, which I'll come to in a second. But you know, it's so very raw. You know, you don't need lots of flashlights. You don't need to hire in expensive models or a studio. Yeah, I mean, it's something that young photographers can take inspiration from, I think, and just start shooting. And that's what Gian is using. So any advice, any advice for young photographers who love this genre of stage photography but are not sure where to start from? So have you got any advice or tips for young photographers?
Yeah, I mean, have fun. I think that photography is a journey, and we didn't know that we were gonna do this. It's something that came naturally, but because we were having fun, we were traveling, and we were doing what we do right now. It's like we couldn't help it. And I think that for young photographers, they should experiment, play, have fun, and they will realize which is their style and what they enjoy the most, because they, for example, they can love I don't know, like nature photography, but then when they are shooting the nature photography, they realize that maybe it's not their field. I don't know, it's like they have to try.
Yeah, I think we always say that instead of, I think when you're trying to find your style, you look into other photographers' work, and I think that's really not the path. I think you should really look inside of yourself, and I'm not trying to say that in a cheesy way, but what I'm trying to say is that for us, our thing was architecture, because we were architects. We are architects, so we wanted to take pictures of architecture, but we found our own way of doing that. But if I'm an architect and I like taking pictures of architects, but for some reason I love pictures of horses, I try to, make those sorts of images, even though I hate being around them. It's not going to work. You need to find something that it comes within you. If that's architecture, great. If that's food, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's like do whatever. I mean, if you had to do one thing every day in your life, if you had to shoot something every day in your life, what would you do? Like, what would you shoot? It's like
even if no one is paying you, that's the whole thing. Like
yeah.
for some time, someone is not, they are not going to pay for you. But it comes to a point where you actually get paid for that.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they say, don't they, if you work in something you enjoy, then you never work a day in your life. Yeah. Okay, a question from Sean. Having used both the X1D and the 907X, what is your preferred, or what is the difference between the two? So essentially it's the same camera and a different format body. So was there any difference with the cameras with your workflow?
The thing is that the 907X, for me, it's been the best camera, the most beautiful camera to ever been designed, and that's just my personal thing. I think it's perfect. But the thing is that in order for me to to use it for the type of work that I do, which is working with a tripod, the camera, it's on the same spot for 3-4 hours. I think it's just a waste to have such a beautiful camera, so comfortable to use in the hand, the 907X I'm speaking, that I feel like when I was using that camera, I wanted to be a street photographer and take it to the busiest street and have it on my, on my waist, shooting from, looking down, and that'll be amazing. But the fact that we shoot on a tripod, for me, it makes it much more better to have the X1D2, because for some reason that makes more sense, because the 907X, I just want to have it on my hand and play with it and use it from all the different angles. And
we are crazy with lines and geometry, and imagine we need to have everything straight.
Yeah.
So we prefer to shoot always with the tripods, and it would be a pity.
I mean, I wouldn't mind having the 907X as well, but
Okay. Question from Martin, which come in quite early on actually. So what is your favorite venues for publishing your work? So you publish quite a lot on your Instagram. And there's some behind the scenes reels, are they, or stories that people can see on there?
Yeah, we really like social media, because I think it's like they are so democratic. Like everybody can share their own work. It's like right now you don't need to have like a big gallery to show your artworks, and that's amazing because you happen to see artworks from people from all over the world. What we like about social media is also that you can share your work, and somebody from the other part of the world can see your work no matter the time it is, because it never closes. So yeah.
But also for us, I think the fact that we use Instagram to to tell our stories, it also allows us to show how those stories are being told, because someone not knowing about our workflow, they could easily understand that everything is Photoshop, or that we, that we do everything on the computer. And because we have this window in Instagram or these type of places, we get to show that the whole thing is being made. And I think that's actually kind of interesting for photographers to have a place to show, especially now that everyone feels like a photographer artist, to show that what you do is special because of how you do it, the hours of research into the location, or the conversations you have with the model between takes. And I think that's all very interesting for other people outside of photography world to understand that it's not just grabbing the camera, pointing to the model and shoot. There's so much more going on. And I think Instagram specifically, it's great for that, to show all the behind the scenes. And that's what we try to do, try to make short videos to show the whole process and how.
And also to inspire people. We normally receive, we usually receive many messages that people get inspired by seeing that everything is in front of the camera, and they don't need like a huge amount of knowledge on Photoshop or so I think it's a time.
Nearly, yeah. So we just come to the end of your images there, and as I promised earlier, there's a reminder of your website address and your Instagram handles. So hopefully people will feel like going to those and having a little bit more of a look at your work. So just one last question then. So what's next for you two guys? Obviously you've hinted at the book. Is it just shooting more of the same, or would you like to develop things in any particular direction?
I think COVID, it's been a bit difficult for us to plan ahead. I think planning is just so 2019 that it doesn't make sense really, but we are kind of passionate still to be working here in Valencia and taking pictures and working with the clients that we're working right now. And, I think quarantine has been, we've got busy ourselves. So we have a lot of things coming up, with the book and with the, something that we are releasing maybe this week.
Maybe this week. Yeah, it's like we can plan ahead. We had many exhibitions. We had an exhibition here in Spain, also in Miami, but because of the pandemic, it didn't happen. So we can't plan anymore. But yeah.
The good thing, I think, and this has been also the case for many photographers, I think we've learned to overcome and to learn from this situation and to adapt. And I think that was hugely important for us. The fact that we knew, okay, we can travel, so we are going to take pictures in Valencia, and that's great.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thanks very much for your time and for sharing all of your interesting stories behind your images and your work. So hopefully, no, great. Well, it's much appreciated, and hopefully I'll get to meet you sometime soon once all the restrictions are starting to lift. So yeah,
hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, so just to finish up quickly, the webinar feedback survey will pop up after you leave the webinar. If you could be so kind to help us fill that in. It's great to hear your feedback and just give us some ideas on which directions and which topics you would like us to try and cover next. Again, just a reminder that the webinar has been recorded, so we'll look to post that to the Hasselblad YouTube channel either later this evening or worst case tomorrow morning. And then for more information on Hasselblad, of course, the Hasselblad website, hasselblad.com, it's got all of our webinars listed on there that are coming up in the future and other events. Of course, all the products, details of our partner network around the world, lots of inspirational stories, lots on Hasselblad's history, and you can, of course, request a demo of any equipment there and get any support. So thanks again, and look forward to seeing you again at the next webinar. Thank you very much.
Bye.